If you'll give me about 20 minutes, then I am going to free you from one of the most dangerous mindsets that I see women, particularly Christian women, adopt when it comes to dating. So, my name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach. I am also a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to heal from their unhealthy relationship patterns and then get clear on what it is they really want in relationships so that they can attract a healthy, loving partnership. And this whole idea of a dangerous dating mindset, I was talking with a friend of mine recently who has been single for a while, and she has intentionally not been dating, not been pursuing anyone. And she was telling me that she felt that she needed to get back into the dating game because the clock is ticking. She's not getting any younger. She feels like now or never she needs to hop back into the game. And we were talking about this, and one of the things that came up is just this whole idea of feeling like marriage is something you're supposed to do, right? That you're supposed to grow up, finish school, graduate, get the career, and then after you have the career, it is marriage, kids, house, dog. Then you do that until you retire, and you live happily ever after, right? And here's the thing. I am most definitely pro relationships. That's why I'm a dating coach, right? And I am pro marriage. I'm married myself. However, too many women are centering marriage and centering men to the point of turning the idea of having a husband, they're making it into an idol. And this is why that is so dangerous. So, for starters, this whole idea of making an idol out of marriage, out of having a husband, I don't mean like, of course, back in the day when you talk about like biblical stories and people are making gold statues and all of that. But when I talk about idolatry, I am talking about anything that gets in the way of you and your relationship with yourself, and also gets in the way of you and your relationship with God. There are plenty of biblical scriptures that talk about, you know, making Christ the center of your life and all that. And if you want a Bible study, let me know. We can definitely do that. But for now, I'm going to keep it more general and just talk about the idea that oftentimes when I see women center men so much, when they make that their ultimate goal, when they make marriage their ultimate goal, it often ends up, again, taking them away from their relationship with themselves and taking them away from their relationship with God. Because in the process, they will have boundaries and standards that reflect the relationship that they have with God, but they will abandon those as soon as a man who is nice to them comes along, right? Or they have put concerted effort into their spirituality and into their faith. So, whether that is church attendance, whether that is going to Bible studies, or whether that is just sitting on your own and reading the Bible on your own, journaling, prayer, all of those, they made a concerted effort to make those things part of their life. But then again, the second a man comes along and wants to hang out during what would have been their prayer and meditation time, they abandon those things. They also end up abandoning themselves, again, giving up hobbies and interests in favor of whoever they're with at the moment, spending less time with their other relationships, their families, their friends, because they want to spend all of their time with someone in hopes that he'll choose her and make her the one that he ends up marrying. Not only is this detrimental to you, your growth, your mental health, but it is going to make you less attractive. When we talk about what the terms of attraction are, what it takes in order for you to not only get the right person's attention, but to also maintain it so that you stay in a relationship with someone who is in love with you, part of that is there is nothing more attractive or more sexy than a woman who has her own life, right? And when you are a woman who is confident, when you have things going for you, when you have hobbies and interests and activities and you're passionate about them, when you have interesting stories to tell about the things that you're doing, the men who you do meet and who you do date, they want to be a part of that. They want to feel like, with everything else that you have going on that's wonderful, you also chose to invite them into this already beautiful life that you've built upon yourself. When you abandon those things in favor of this new idol that you've made in a boyfriend, then frankly, you start to become boring. You also give off desperation, which makes you, again, less attractive. So, not only is this not healthy, not only is this a dangerous thing to do, centering men, but it also makes you less attractive, which defeats your purpose to begin with. So, the other thing that we want to talk about when it comes to why centering men is such a dangerous thing to do is because it undermines your own identity. So, instead of focusing on what you should be doing, what you like, what your interests are, you start forming an identity based on what you think will be attractive to someone else. This is something that I have actually been talking with my own coach about, right? Because yes, as a coach, I have a coach. Um, and we were talking about the fact that I put so much of my identity into work, into my career as a coach, and also my career as for 10 or so years I've been a journalist, and doing those things and always wanting to have the next accomplishment, winning this award for my writing, or being able to say that I've coached this many clients, things like that. And we were talking about what identity is for me when I'm not pursuing those things, right? Or outside of a job or a title that I have. And as I was doing this work for myself, right, on me, I was thinking about how this often manifests in dating and relationships as well. That you see these women and even if you haven't been this woman, you probably know this woman, right? Who the second that she gets in a relationship, she ends up making everything about the fact that she is a girlfriend, or she makes everything about the fact that she is a wife. You see this with content creators on social media, right? You will see the happily independent woman traveling the world, doing all these awesome things in her career, spending time with her friends. And then the second that she gets married, the entire page is wife content, which, don't get me wrong, again, I think that marriage is a beautiful thing. And I love the time that I spend with my husband. However, if you get to know me, the fact that I have a husband is one of the least interesting things about me. And I think it should be because I don't want other people all in my marriage. Um, I don't want people fascinated by that. There are plenty of things about me that you can be fascinated about. My love of travel, my career, my hobbies, what I've been reading, things like that, that we can talk about and I can discuss those things while protecting the privacy and sanctity of my marriage. So when we have situations where you get so caught up in a relationship that you end up losing who you are, you will find yourself in situations where, as beautiful again as marriage is, at some point, your spouse is not going to be available. And it could be unavailable because sadly they passed away. It could be unavailable because divorce. It could just be that sometimes your spouse, because they're human, they're going through periods where they're not as available as they typically are. And you are setting yourself to crash out and not really be able to handle that season very well because you have spent no time and figure out who you are as a person without a partnership. The other thing that this does, this whole idea of centering men, is that it sets up unhealthy expectations for a relationship. Because if you make one person be your all and your everything and you put them on that pedestal, that is so much pressure for another person to be on. And because we are human, at some point he's not going to live up to those expectations, right? At some point he is going to disappoint. And again, that's normal. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. But when you are healthy and centered in yourself, when you stand strong as your own person and you're married to someone and that person has a moment, right, where they're not perfect, you're able to have grace for them. You're able to forgive them and you are able to feel good still in the relationship, about the relationship, and in yourself as a person. Because again, nothing in your worth or your identity is tied to any mistake that this person makes. There's also the spiritual implications of why this is so dangerous. Um, putting another person at the center of your life is going to distort your relationship with God. It is going to take you further away. And then when you find yourself in situations where you feel like you really need to connect spiritually, when you feel like you really need to reach out to God for guidance, it is going to become so much harder to do that. The further you pull yourself away from that relationship because you're focused on a romantic relationship. Instead, let's talk about some of the ways in which we can create a healthier perspective on how we date and on how we balance, that identity and what it is that we center. So it starts with, of course, finding your spiritual grounding. Faith has always been a really important part of my life, and being able to center myself in that, being able to feel comfortable with going to God in prayer and meditation for guidance, being able to go into the scripture for guidance, is something that helps keep me mentally level, right? And having that grounding, knowing that I have that to turn to whenever things feel shaky, makes it again so much easier for me to keep my mind right, to balance my emotions, and to never allow myself to spiral over anything that's happening in my life. Now, after you have your grounding, the next thing that you want to do is you want to set healthy boundaries and standards for dating. And you want to make sure that you not only enforce those, so that doesn't mean beating someone up over the head and like going with, these are my boundaries, you have to accept them or else, but knowing what the boundaries are for you and holding on to those no matter what the person you're dating is doing. One of the examples that I use very often is when I was single, I also worked an overnight shift. So I had a very hard boundary over I didn't accept phone calls after a certain time or text messages or anything like that after a certain time because I needed my sleep, right? And one of the things that I was very clear on is when I would start to date someone, I would let them know, hey, just so you know, because of my sleep schedule, don't call me after this time. And not like I'm never going to talk to you if you call me after this time or I'm going to break up with you or anything. But the way I enforced that was I put my phone on do not disturb. And if I got calls at that time, even if I wasn't asleep, I didn't answer. That is how I enforced that. And once you show people that you stand on business, that you have boundaries, that you have standards, that you don't let go of those, and you have your non negotiables, people respect you. Now, there are people who don't want to respect you, and because of that, they will end up leaving. They will not want to be in a relationship with you. But, sometimes rejection is protection, right? And the people who do care about you, who want to get to know you, who are interested in having a real relationship, they will respect that. And again, it will also make you more attractive because there's something very attractive about a person who knows what they want and they stick to it and they're not afraid about what other people think about it, right? You also want to keep dating in a healthy perspective by pursuing growth and wholeness over everything else. So we teach people how to love us and how to treat us. So if we spend the majority of our time focused on ourselves, right? And focusing on how we can grow, how we can be smarter, how we can improve our mindset, how we can be healthier, then we are teaching other people to prioritize us as well. You know, if you spend all of your time chasing after that man and putting your energy into that man is going to put more energy into himself, right? Because you've shown him that he deserves it. So when you spend more of your time focusing on you, you again set the expectation that you expect someone else to also invest in you. And we also want to date with purpose, not from pressure. So again, I mentioned my friend saying that she wanted to get back into the dating pool and find a partner. And although I encourage that, you know, she and I have talked about ways that she can put herself out there and where to meet the type of partner that she wants. I always want that to come from a place of wanting to find someone who is going to help you better live out your purpose, right? Wanting to find a companion who you have these goals, you have these dreams, and you understand the ways in which a certain type of person is going to be beneficial in helping you achieve those. And before anybody comes for me in comments, I'm not talking necessarily about money, right? Because there's a lot of content out there very, uh, that's very, I don't want to say gold diggery, but the idea that that's the only thing that women want or care about. What I mean is, for example, my husband is my biggest cheerleader, right? So I have all of these goals in both of my careers, these things that I want to accomplish, and he is constantly asking how he can support me. He's constantly encouraging me. When I feel like giving up, he's reminding me of the things that I've accomplished so far and how much more I can accomplish. So, understanding how a partner can feed into helping you live out your dreams and goals is so important. And focusing on that will allow you, as you achieve higher, as you do more for yourself, you will also attract better quality partners. Um, you know, birds of a feather flock together. So the more successful you are, the more grounded you are, the more likely you're going to be put in environments around other successful and grounded people. And that is why it's important to date with purpose, understanding that you are going after situations, relationships that will help you elevate and not date from a place of pressure. Because when you date from pressure, you often end up settling. And as you settle with someone who doesn't have the same level of goals and dreams as you, you're often going to end up falling down to their level, not them raising up to yours. Just being real. Um, I also want to talk about how you approach this as far as some concrete things that you need to do to avoid dating from this unhealthy mindset. So, one is to take your time, right? I hear it all the time with women that I work with. The majority of my clients are in their 30s and 40s. And I think those 2 decades are a time where a lot of women feel like a lot of things in life are kind of like a now or never prospect. And while I do understand why you would have those pressures, things like, you know, wanting to have kids and wanting to do it by a certain age and all of that, totally get it. At the same time, it is better to take your time and get it right than to spend a lot more time making a mistake and then having to undo said mistake. If you truly have faith and you truly believe that God is working things out in your life in a certain way with intention, then you should also learn to get comfortable with God's plan taking the time that it takes, right? The other thing that you want to do is you want to seek wise counsel when it comes to your dating journey. Because as you're going on dates, as you're meeting men, as you're getting a feel for who they are, you want to be able to get feedback. If your intuition, your discernment is bringing up certain concerns, you want to be able to have someone to bounce that off on. So that could be me. If you are interested in coaching, if you are interested in working with me to help you find the right partner, then I will put a link in the description for how you can work with me. That could be a therapist. That could be another coach. You know, there are other dating coaches out there as well. That could also be, again, wise counsel. So this could also be friends who are a step ahead of you. So friends who are recently married, have been married for a few years. If you have women in your family who have been in long-lasting, healthy marriages, you can seek their counsel, their guidance as well. If you don't have that in your personal circle, then you need to build that elsewhere. And that could mean reading books. That can mean finding content creators on social media that you can listen to and get their counsel from who are in the place that you want to be in life. And again, that can also mean seeking professional help as well. And I have it in my notes as learning to be content in your singleness. I kind of want to be clear about that. I don't believe that God is a tease, right? If there's a desire in your heart to be in relationship, to be married, then I believe that desire is there for a reason, and that is part of your purpose. That being said, one of the most important things that we can do in general, talking about dating, career, health, all of those things, is that while we pursue a better, brighter future, we also learn how to make peace with and be good with the present that we have now. Again, you know, before I was a dating coach, I was a career coach. And I think about like the career goals that I had and the clients that I work with and what their goals were. You can enjoy the job that you have right now, right? While you still pursue a promotion or while you still pursue working at a certain type of company. And same with dating and relationships. If you are out here dating, meeting, and things are kind of casual, you're not really finding somebody that is long-term partner potential, you can enjoy that. You can enjoy having good conversations, you know, going on dates and trying fun things while you're still actively looking for your spouse. If you are single and you haven't been dating as much, then yeah, we can work together on how to get you out there, where to meet the right partner, activities that you can do, dating app profiles, all of that stuff. Like you should actively pursue putting yourself out there. At the same time, you can still appreciate the fact that because you are single now, that means that you have more time for yourself to focus on improving your health, improving your mindset, uh, getting the bag, right? And working on your career. Because as great as marriage is, as great as family is, if you decide that you want to have children and all of that, when you get to that point in life, you're not going to have as much time to work on your career. You're just not. You're not going to have necessarily as much time to say go to a bunch of different fitness classes, right? Um, there was a point where I was working out 7 days a week, and going to classes like 2 or 3 times a day. I still work out on a regular basis, but I don't have that kind of time anymore, right? So you want to learn how to enjoy the season that you're in as well and show gratitude for that. And again, doing that, having that gratitude, also having that grace for yourself is one of the most attractive things that you can do. And you want to also focus on mutual growth. So, another problem that I see with a lot of dating and relationship content online is there's a lot of what can another person do for me? And I would really want you to focus on not only what can a partner do for me, but how can I help elevate a partner? What are the things about me that make me such a great future wife? Right? What are some of the things about me that will help someone else get to the goals that they want to achieve while they help me with my goals and my ambitions and dreams? So, as you are thinking about this and reflecting on this, ask yourself, have you truly been intentional about dating? And have you been intentional about seeing it as a holistic part of your life and not something that you're pressured into or not something that you have made your entire life? And also, I am going to be talking more about dangerous dating advice. So feel free to hop in the comments and let me know what's some of the worst dating advice that you've heard, or if there's dating advice that you keep hearing. Let me know that in the comments too, and I can weigh in on whether or not that is healthy advice. So, again, hop in the comments, tell me about dating advice that you've heard. If you want to work with me, check out the description under this video, or I will probably also post this on my podcast too. So, you can also leave a review on iTunes and ask questions there and leave comments there. But in the meantime, remember, you are the center of your life and you need to act like it. Okay? I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Bye.